Dr. Phyllis Collins of DietHobby.com, and I'm here today to show you my tuna noodle casserole recipe. Now I have made it a little more low calorie than normal, but it's still a fairly high calorie meal, so you have to have a small serving. I'm going to put this in this pan, and we're going to have 1/10 of a serving, and 1/10 of this pan is one serving, and one serving is 251 calories, 19 net carbs, and 16 grams of protein. So it's clearly 251 calories, 16 grams of protein. That's all you need. You can have a little salad with it and some diet dressing. So this is a comfort, like I said, a comfort food, and this recipe was one of my son's favorites when he was a little boy. I've been cooking this recipe for years, and it is my favorite tuna noodle casserole to make. Okay, so we're going to start out with 3½ cups of cooked egg noodles, and I have already cooked those noodles. And then we're going to use 2 cans of water-packed tuna, and I'm just going to dump that into the bowl. And I've already drained it, and it's any kind of tuna, 2 cups of water-packed tuna. This is the Costco brand, which I'm very fond of myself. That's what I use, but any kind of tuna is fine. Just canned tuna, as long as it's canned in water, because if it's canned in oil, obviously that adds more calories. So I'm kind of just chunking it up and putting the tuna in here. And we're going to start out with 2 cans of tuna. Then, and the next thing that we're going to do is we've got a cup of celery. I've diced it up. You see, it's diced up celery. And we've got a cup of celery. Okay. And then we have a large onion that I've chopped up. And here's a large onion. And then here's a green bell pepper, a sweet green bell pepper. That I've chopped up, and all 3 of those things go together. Now we're going to add to it salt. A recipe calls for a teaspoon of salt, and if you don't use salt, then don't. Or you could use less or whatever. But the recipe calls for a full teaspoon of salt, and that's what I put in. It's half a teaspoon is what I grabbed a hold of. So 2 of those. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to mix it together with the tuna. And I'm going to just use my hands. If you have a problem touching food, then use a spoon or a fork or a whisk or whatever makes you comfortable. Personally, I love touching food. I like eating it. I like touching it with my mouth best, but touching it with my hands is good too. They say don't play with your food. Well, I say play with your food because there's a lot of satisfaction, for people who like food the way that I do, to actually, just be around it and touch it and cook it and play with it. That's my own personal experience. Take it or leave it, depending on what you are. So here we've got this, the vegetables and the tuna. We've got those all mixed up, and now we're going to do the rest of it. So the rest of it, what we're going to do is I'm going to take a cream of celery soup. This happens to be Campbell's cream of celery soup. This happens to be the 98% fat-free, but I think the recipe is based on the regular, so it's a tiny, fat-free is a tiny bit less calories, but not really enough in a whole recipe to make more than a couple of calories a serving different. So I've got that. Now I'm going to mix a ½ cup of mayonnaise. Now one way to lighten up the calories is I use light mayonnaise. I don't use full-fat mayonnaise. Truth is, I don't even like full-fat mayonnaise anymore. When I have a choice of the 2, if I weren't even worried about my weight, I'd still choose this because I happen to like it best. So I'm mixing this up. And then I have a ½ cup of milk. And I'm going to put a half a cup of milk in here. And I'm going to mix it up. I'm going to mix it up with a spoon. Because the whisk isn't going to work too well, and that blender wasn't working too well either. Okay, so I'm blending in my half a cup of milk. Now this happens to be 2%. It's what the recipe calls for. But if you use skim milk or totally non-fat milk, obviously it makes a few less calories. If you use whole milk, then it's more calories. So the ingredients that you use makes a difference on your final dish. And some of the ingredients are more important than others. Now, okay. Now the next thing I'm going to add is I'm going to add shredded cheese. Now, the recipe calls for melting the cheese ahead of time, and so sometimes what I'll do is I'll put the cheese in this, and I'll put this in the microwave, and I'll get this whole thing hot to melt the cheese. But this cheese is really, really fine. It's a really fine shred, so it's not really necessary for me to melt this particular cheese. If I had mixed it up, you know, got regular block cheese and shredded it myself, it wouldn't have been this fine, and it would have been better to melt it first, like the recipe calls for, because then it would incorporate better, you know, throughout the whole recipe. But this is so it's so fine of a shred that I don't think it's going to make that much difference. So you see how I've got all of this goopy stuff mixed up together. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this goopy stuff here with my tuna and my veggies. I'm going to mix that up. And I won't use my hands on this one because this really is going to make a mess. Sometimes, if I weren't on camera, I might. You know, but this is just fine this way. Okay, now the last thing, or there's two more things I'm going to do. One, as I have here, a half a cup of sliced raw almonds. These are sliced raw almonds. And these are going to go in as well. They just add the celery and the almonds and the cheese and the mayonnaise. It just adds such a lovely little crunch. It's just a really, really tasty meal. I haven't made it in a while, but last time I had it and all the times before, it was a really tasty meal. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to add, and I've already cooked the 3½ cups of noodles, is I'm going to add these noodles to it. Better get some of these out of my way. Now I'm stirring in the noodles because I can. This looks so good. I can't wait to eat this. I'm kind of excited when the days that I make these recipes and I choose my favorites, I go, oh, I'm so excited, I'm going to have this. And of course, my husband and I will eat, I'll eat some of it, and then some of it will go into individually served. I will freeze it into individually servings, and then later on, I'll take one serving out whenever I want more. Or if I give him some, I usually give him like 2 servings because he's big, he's a man, he's a pig. I shouldn't say that, he's going to be watching it. He's not a pig. But he gets to eat a lot more than I do and stay very slim. Okay, so now this is pretty well incorporated. So what I'm going to do, now I could put this in a beautiful casserole dish and it would be lovely, you know, and it would be more attractive, but I've gotten in the habit of using these pans because it's so easy to see how much a serving is. Okay, here we go. Dump this in here. So I'm using, okay. Look at how much there is. See, it's easy for me, and 1/10 of this is how much I get. And it's easy for me, I'm using my hands. Gunk. Now, you're not going to see this on a cooking show probably. This is how Grandma cooks. The best tools you could have are your hands, you know, and if you don't like I said, I love touching food. Okay, now, you notice that for those of you who say I put mushrooms in everything, you notice there's no mushrooms in this, but I will tell you that when I was putting the ingredients together, I did eat a raw mushroom. Okay, so mushrooms were involved, even though, okay, so now that is the recipe. That is it. It is good. I washed my hands. Okay, and now what we're going to do is I have been preheating the oven at 425 degrees. All right, and we're going to take and cover the first 20 minutes. We're going to cook this about 30 minutes. And the first 20 minutes, well, look at that. The first 20 minutes, we're going to cover it with tin foil, aluminum foil. And then after it's like 20 minutes, about 20 minutes, then I'm going to take the foil off and cook it uncovered. Okay? So this is going to go in the oven at 425 degrees, 20 minutes covered, 10 minutes uncovered, and then when we come back, I'll show you how it looks. I'm back with the Tuna Noodle Casserole. This makes 10 servings at 251 calories a serving. Here you go. This is how it looks. Can you see? You can see the little peppers and the nuts and the whole thing. It's a tuna noodle casserole. Okay, so now we're going to figure out how to divide it into 10. And I should have thought about this ahead of time, but I didn't. So I'm going to cut it in half. And then I need 5. So 1, 2, that's 4. Okay, 1, 2. Okay, so now it's good to figure out how you're going to cut this up before you do it in front of someone. Okay, because then they're going to see how you know, inefficient you are with math. Anyway, this is going to be 1/10. 1, 2, 3, 5, 1/10. And you're going to be able to see pretty well. I think you'll be able to see it pretty well. And I'm going to take it out and dish it up. And I'll take it with a spatula because it's easier to get out of the pan. But it's not really supposed to be little cubes, and it isn't. Okay, so here's how it looks. This is it. See the steam coming off? You can see the tuna and the celery and the little almonds and the peppers, and there's cheese in there. Doesn't it look good? Well, I'll tell you if it's good or not. It's good. It's very good. This is 1/10 on the serving. This is how big a serving that you would have. If you have a large appetite, then you're going to want a green salad with it or some more vegetables. Something low calorie to have on the side that would add volume. This is 251 calories, 19 net carbs, 16 grams of protein. So this right here, this is the size of serving that a person is supposed to eat. You have this, and you have a green salad with diet dressing. You're going to have a really lovely meal. Be tasty, it'll fill you up, and it'll keep you from getting fat. And if you are fat, it'll help you lose a little weight. And if you used to be fat and you've lost a lot of weight and you're trying to maintain your weight the way I am, it's really very, very good for you. Come and see me at diethobby.com.